Hello, and welcome to this new episode of the Digital Nomad Mom podcast. This show is all about the digital nomad lifestyle coupled with family topics. I'm on a mission to debunk the notion that the digital nomad lifestyle is only for the young and single ones. No, it's possible even as a family. And today I'm joined with one power mama here, Anna Lundberg. She is the founder of One Step Outside, where she helps experienced professionals around the world design a career, a business, and a lifestyle that brings them freedom, flexibility, and fulfillment. But what's most stunning and amazing about Anna is she is a mom of two under two. Now, this is a title that we love here on this podcast. And Anna, thanks so much for taking your time, especially, having a 3 months old crawling around or laying around waiting for you. This is amazing that you have carved out your time, and I'm eager to hear your story. Thanks again for joining, and I give over the microphone to you. Let's hear what's your story and who you are.
Oh, thank you so much, Julia. I'm not sure about the whole super mum, and Zach is definitely not crawling yet, but he's sleeping at the moment, which is a miracle. So that's always good. It's always helpful, and it's a pleasure to talk to you. Well, where to start? As we were just talking before we started recording, I'm Swedish originally. I grew up in England though, and then I moved to Geneva in Switzerland to do my master's degree. It was mainly because I just didn't know what to do work-wise, so I just continued my studies, and I thought back at the UN and learn French a bit more and so on. I ended up working after doing my studies in international relations and development and doing an internship at the United Nations. I ended up working in the private sector. So 99% of the jobs I applied to were development and NGOs and things. And then the one that I applied to that actually wanted me was the big American consumer goods company. So I learned marketing and brand building at Procter & Gamble, big consumer goods company. And I was there for 7 years. And then in 2013, that's where I guess my nomadic journey began or re-began, depending on how you look at it, because I decided to go on a sabbatical. 3 months, I traveled across South America by myself. In fact, actually, it started a little bit before that, because the year before, my friend and I went across Central America. And I think that sort of gave me a bit of a taster again for kind of traveling and the backpacking and a bit of adventure. But halfway through my sabbatical, I quit my job. I called up HR and my boss and took the leap without really any kind of plan, any idea of what I wanted, except that I wanted to travel more, write more, do something more fulfilling. And then I'm sure we'll talk about that more. I don't want to give you like a 20-minute intro, but basically I've had lots of twists and turns since then. I was single and free and young at some point. So I did start my journey. I guess I was, 30 something when I started, so not super young, but I was certainly single. So at some point I had no job, no home, no partner, and I was flying very, very free. And initially I was consulting. So I would work in England and then I would take a few months off to travel. That was kind of my nomadic way of balancing things. Then I found that wasn't quite what I was after. So then I wanted to go fully location independent. And that's when I kind of took my business on the road and had an amazing few years. Then I fell in love. So the single disappeared and my boyfriend happened to have a 9-to-5 job in London. So I came back to London and we were settled for a little bit. And then we've popped out 2 kids. However, the good news is that he has, and of course we have COVID, let's throw that into the mix too, because that's kind of affected us a little bit too.
Small detail.
But excitingly, Luke has left his job actually. So he's much more flexible. And hopefully there's light at the end of the tunnel after COVID. And although I'm speaking to you from London, we're actually moving down to the sea, to the coast, south coast of England, literally in a couple of weeks. So that's the first step. And then hopefully as things open up again, we'll be able to become a bit more nomadic again. So I guess I feel a bit of a fraud because most of my time with the kids has been less travel, I guess, less nomadic, but in my heart, in my spirit, I'm still nomadic, and certainly I'm still location independent, which I think is still a massive enabler when I've got the kids.
No, and you don't have to feel like a fraud. I mean, at the moment, everyone is a little bit, locked up, and I mean, many people have picked up traveling again, but then at the same time, it's not as much fun as when you have to worry about the COVID test and all this kind of thing. So I don't blame you that you're now, especially with a 3 month year old. So yeah, Come on, it's okay. It's
Thank you.
okay.
I
And you'll
appreciate
pick it up.
it. Yes, exactly. It's easy to get back into your comfort zone, isn't it? I talk a lot about that in my business, but you do some really exciting adventure things and that becomes your norm. And suddenly
Yeah.
after a year or so of not doing those things, suddenly your life looks very different. And suddenly it sort of becomes a bit more of an effort to shake things up and go off again on travels.
Yes, and maybe that's even, I mean, that's an actually very interesting point. I had a conversation the other day with someone too who said on, and I can definitely confirm that as well with me being now here stuck in Thailand for more than a year, which is the longest since 10 years because I've been on the road since 2011 and I haven't really stopped so long. And then I feel like, wow, I can actually see myself, staying longer in places and I feel comfortable being in one place. Before I was always saying, oh, no, I need to move and explore and let's go. I was always the one with the finger on the button to buy the plane tickets. And now I'm like, it's actually quite nice to stay also, especially when the kids, when you see your children run around and they're happy. I think that's the main reason why I'm now so chilled. But I'm not saying that we won't move as soon as it's more doable again. But I totally get it when you say you used to be that adventure traveler and do all the cool stuff, jump out of airplanes and or whatever, and now you're being back to normal. But I find when you have a location independent business like you and I do, and the mentality, I think it's like, I don't know, quitting with sugar or quitting with some sort other addictions. It's so easy to go back again. At least that's what I find.
Yeah, that's an interesting comparison, but definitely you can see here I've got my picture of me paddleboarding in the Mississippi, but that's already I want to say over 5 years ago. So again, it feels like a long lost memory. But I am going to buy a paddleboard as soon as we get down to the coast. So that's at least one thing I'm going to do. But I think that's actually an interesting thing to think about, is how, I call it, your definition of success evolves over time. Because initially, I guess I didn't even know of this idea of being nomadic and so on. Then, as I said, I sort of started, okay, well, I can work and then travel. And then it was work and travel at the same time. And then maybe it was having a base, but doing shorter trips. And again, that's going to evolve in the future. And of course, that's affected by having young children and so on. I mean, with Sophia, who's now almost 2, we did a few trips. I spent quite some time in Sweden, where my family is.
I actually wanted to quickly dip into really briefly on how we got connected, because maybe this is also something interesting for people listening today, because Anna and I, we only know each other a few days ago, because we are following the same thread or are in the same group on Facebook called Clubhouse Members. And I'm sure many people listening are aware of the fact that this is the new kid on the block and the social media apps. And I just reached out to Anna because I posted something about a room that I'm hosting for female coaches, and Anna's profile then just was so interesting to me. A mom of 2, under 2, and also being a female entrepreneur. So that's how we got connected. And I think if someone is out there saying, or maybe you can share your side, how do you usually connect and make networking and grow your business or maintain your business as a location independent entrepreneur using social media? This is not a one-time thing, I'm sure, for you as well as for me. So I think this is an interesting aspect for many people wondering, oh, and how do you get the people in your podcast, for example? Right?
It's one of my favorite things about the business. So when I was traveling on my sabbatical in South America, I started a career interview series with people who initially people I knew, so friends I knew had left a job. I think actually I met a guy randomly in Basel who'd quit his marketing job to become a rock star, as he said it. So I thought, oh my gosh, I want to talk to you to inspire me. So it was completely selfish. But then it went from there. So actually I then published a book a few years ago, Leaving the Corporate 9 to 5, which is 50 of those stories. So that is one way to talk to people. That's always my favorite thing when you're traveling or just meeting people, just talk to people. But it has been my favorite thing, connecting with people like you all around the world. And of course, Clubhouse, yes, is an amazing platform now. It's just audio, so you don't need to do your hair and makeup, which is wonderful. You can talk to people all around the world, and it's I've only been there a few weeks, but it's a fantastic platform. But definitely community, I think, is so important. You know, as it turns out, I'm very self-motivated and also pretty happy in my own company. But to be honest, even I, during COVID, have reached the end of my limit of not seeing people and not having a life outside of my house, essentially. So, you know, I have a Facebook group, One Step Outside, for like-minded people who are building a business. There's so many digital nomad groups to join, right? So just do a quick search online and find those groups. And I think finding other people doing the same thing, whatever it is you're trying to do, whether it's other nomads or other parents or personal branding expert, whatever, but just find people doing things that inspire you, and they can then help you to take your business to the next level. So that's really been key for me to connect online, especially because offline is a bit harder. I have to say, another tip back in my single days was that I did use dating apps a little bit like that, not for the business, but it was a great way to, you know, when I landed somewhere, I'd message some guy I was chatting to and say, hey, do you want to come to this whiskey tasting or something? Just because then you have a friend to go with or something. It's just a nice way to meet people, right? So you know, there are creative ways. If you're a single parent, then that's an option to consider, if someone can have your kids in the meantime.
Wonderful. I love that. Yes. And I think this is a wonderful way to wrap up the show today. I always like to add that, you know, examples like you show that there are so many different ways of living this nomadic lifestyle. And especially like I want to stress, kids are not a reason to stop it. And I like the approach of, you know, the tip that you just gave. There's so many ways to connect with people, even if you're not single. I mean, connecting with other people is so crucial and important. And if you do it online, then translate it to your offline world by go meet the people at the bar or at the beach. So this is wonderful. Yeah, Anna, thanks again for joining us today, sharing your story and some great tips. And I hope you liked it too. And one last thing, maybe if you have, where can people find you? Maybe you can say that real quick.
So I have the Reimagining Success podcast. I'm not sure if when we were talking about that, if that did get cut off or not, but just in case, that's really my whole philosophy is, as you said, that you can design your own world, right? I think it's so easy to initially, for me, think that the corporate employment track was the only way to do it, or buying a house and having a mortgage and having kids or not kids or whatever was the only way to do it, and getting married, etc. Right? And there are so many constellations. And I think I always tell people to start with what you want to do and then work out the how. So don't let the kids be a problem. Don't let, you know, other people's doubts and fears and things be a problem. Just imagine what it is you want to do. And I'm sure there's a way. I'm sure, first of all, there's somebody out there who's done it already, because there are so many versions now. And I'm sure there's a way to work it out, whether you want to travel 3 months of the year and then stay put, or if you want to do 6 months here, 6 months there. I've met so many people with every possible version of that. So yeah, definitely work out what works for you. And if, like me, you and like many of us now, I suppose, you can't travel right now, that's okay. And there are, as you said, with Thailand now, you're enjoying a different kind of life there as well. So there's always, you know, nuggets to be found, even in unexpected and undesired even situations.
Yeah, absolutely. Stay flexible, be open to changes, and just enjoy life in general.
And flexibility, of course, is my favorite part of the nomadic lifestyle anyway. So so Reimagining Success podcast, to answer your question, that's probably the best place to find me, or on onestepoutside.com.
I will definitely link or put all the links so that you can check out Anna's amazing work and connect with her on all the different platforms. And Anna, thanks again for being part of my show, and thanks everyone for listening. And I wish you all a wonderful day or night or evening, wherever you're tuning in from, and see you and listening. Hear you next time.